Maturity is dependence on Christ. It's truly knowing I don't have it. I don't have what it takes in my own strength. I'm a mess. And unless God shows up, unless God gives me my daily bread, unless God does it, it's not gonna go well. And and that's a really uncomfortable place. I hate that place. I'm in that place right now, but I'm depending on God. And I think that's what he died for, is that relationship with us. So it ends up being like an issue of surrendering that to the Lord and doing it anyway.
You're listening to the Big Ideas Podcast with Ashlee Ilg. Tune in for honest conversations as we pursue bold dreams, redefine what is possible, and empower the next generation to live big. You'll hear stories that prove over and over again that just because something wasn't a part of our plan doesn't mean it won't be used for our good. Whether you're already an entrepreneur, you dream of becoming one, or you're raising the next generation of entrepreneurs, this podcast is for you. There's no time to waste on your big ideas. So let's get started. Here's your host, Ashlee Ilg.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Big Ideas Podcast. I'm so excited to just keep this season rolling with another really fun guest I know you guys are going to love. I have Melissa Hughes here with me today. She is a speaker, a coach, an entrepreneur, all around, all the fun things. And we have so many fun topics to dive into. But first and foremost, welcome to the show, Melissa.
Oh, thank you so much, Ashlee. I'm happy to be here.
Yes, awesome. Well, as you know, around here, we love to talk about the ways that we have all these amazingly, perfectly planned plans, and somehow God just gets a hold of it and just kind of shakes everything up and says, that looks kind of good, but like, watch what I'm about to do. And a lot of times, he just takes those great plans or good plans and turns them into something even better. And one of the things I've loved about your story, Melissa, is I've just kind of watched you and followed along with your journey. I love how you've shared this story, and I'd love you to just kind of drop us into that. Like, you were just getting back from the UK, you just showed up just as you were, and sort of what doors just kind of swung open for you and how you've just kind of continue to walk through that. But just kind of drop us in with like, this is what I was thinking. I didn't really know it was going to happen, and but God,
Yeah. Well, I don't know if you've ever found yourself in like a spot where you thought it was going to go one way and it goes the opposite, and almost to the point where you feel like God has let you down. That was really the season that we were coming out of. We had moved to the UK with these big dreams of like launching this church and serving God. And, it's just, we're going to follow Jesus. And it was hard. Yeah. And not only was it hard, but it was actually heart-wrenching. My husband ended up getting into a car accident, and he couldn't walk. I was his full-time carer. We couldn't work. We still decided to stay and grow the church, but it was just like those seasons when like it rains, it pours, right, and just one thing after another. So God was really faithful to us in that season, but it really was a challenging season. And so we came home really feeling like we had done what God said to do, but it didn't go the way that we thought. And so feeling a little discouraged, feeling burnt out, feeling kind of like, okay, Lord, we had this dream and it didn't go the way that we thought. And so now what? Right. And it was COVID, and I had gotten a job working in childcare because we needed a house and forks and couches and, all the things. Do you move transatlantically?
Wow. Yeah.
And I was praying one day and I was like, God, what do you have in store? And when I'm saying I'm praying one day, I'm praying every day, multiple times a day, pleading. And I felt God one day finally say back to me, Melissa, what do you want to do? And I felt like I had nothing good. Like I felt like I had nothing really to offer. And I said, well, Lord, if we're being honest, the only skill that I have is talking. That's it. I can talk to people, but I'm not good at anything else. And I really felt like God said, okay, like, thank you for being honest. And it was like about a month later, he started speaking to me about video content and like posting videos online. And it felt very weird. And this one day I uploaded this video on TikTok, kind of just trying to figure out what the platform was. And I woke up the next morning and that video generated 22 million views. I end up on the Kelly Clarkson show for it. doors start opening that feel extremely uncomfortable. Somebody reaches out to me about one of my videos about doing a kid's book, and they're going to turn my video into a kid's book. And then he's like, you should do this for a living. I'm like, do what for a living? He's like, teach people how to do social media. I'm like, nobody is going to pay me for that. And he asked me, how much do you need to make to go out on your own? And I was making $2,000 a month working in childcare. So I was like, I don't know, $2,500 a month. And he ended up going to this person he knew that had a company and said, I have my friend Melissa. She's a social media consultant. She charges $2,500 a month. Would you hire her? And he said yes. And that was how I got my first client. And then I've just continued to step out, and God's opened doors, and I felt like I'm living on a prayer. But so that was about
amazing. I love that. I've just seen little bits of it. I haven't heard it, from your mouth. And I'm like, that's just, it's so God. It's just like, obviously you can't take credit for that. You can't be like, this is how I planned it. This is how I would have done it. So, I mean, just in those videos that you were making, just showing up, were you on your lunch break? Is that what you were doing in your car? Yeah. It's so cool. I just love it. As a recovering perfectionist, it inspires me in all the best ways. Like I'm like white knuckling my chair as I'm listening, not really, but like, it really is true. When you show up unfiltered, unedited, authentic, just honest, like, what kind of lessons did those moments teach you,
Oh man, so many. I mean, one, actually you said it, was I couldn't take credit. And I think that was why God had us in the valley, was because when you're like, I mean, we were 25, I was 25, and you do think like, God's on my side and I can show up and like I can do this in my own strength. But when I felt like he had tied my hands behind my back, and every effort I was putting forth just produced nothing. You really learn like we can't really produce anything without the Lord. And so when I take this crappy video, literally it was crappy, and I hit publish, and like with just like a push of a button, it just like these doors open up. I'm like, okay, this is ridiculous now. Like it really was. I felt like God laughing, being like, it's me. Like, it doesn't really have anything to do with you. And that's brought a lot of peace to me. Cause like, even on times where I don't know how something's going to work out now, I'm like, well, Lord, it's on you, because I definitely didn't come up with this idea. This is on you now. So you're going to need to figure this out.
Yeah.
And it takes the striving away,
I love that. I love that so much because just everything you're saying, which leads me really into one of the big things I think you work with a lot of women entrepreneurs and just clients in general, of just dealing with the idea of just being an imposter, the imposter syndrome. I mean, that phrase I feel like was, I don't know, maybe thrown around, might be a loose way to say it, but I feel like it was almost an overused excuse for a while. And I'm probably stepping on toes saying that. I'd love your perspective on it though, because it sounds like you've maybe personally experienced it, but then also have helped a lot of people kind of identify it and then overcome it.
Yeah.
So what is imposter syndrome like as a definition? Like, what does it look like? Maybe why does it happen? Let's kind of like camp out on that topic for a minute.
Sure. So imposter syndrome is essentially this like psychological pattern where you constantly doubt your own success, your own skills, your own talents, your own abilities. And you really live with this like core fear of, I feel like I'm not as good as what other people think that I am. And there's only a matter of time or whatever till I'm going to be found out. And it's this feeling of like, I'm just really not that good. And what's interesting is as I've grown my agency and worked with people growing their brand, I have discovered that really the one thing that everybody struggles with is that it doesn't matter. And what's wild is it doesn't matter if they do have a Harvard degree or they have all these years of success. When I talk to them about putting content out, it's always like, well, I'm not an expert. And well, I should know more. Or it's this
like, who am I to say this or do this?
Right. And it's a problem for everybody, not just women either. It's men. And so I'm just realizing like, wow, imposter syndrome is just, everyone is struggling with it. And so God really started to speak to me about two different kinds of imposter syndrome that I could share if that's
Yes,
okay.
please do.
Okay. So there really are, in my professional opinion, these two different kinds of imposter syndrome. And one is this kind of imposter syndrome where it actually you are feeling imposter syndrome because you are actually being an imposter. And what I mean by that is you are trying to get into rooms and trying to get around people and chasing after this idea of success because you are trying to prove yourself and you are trying to be someone that you're not. Maybe it's because it's what your parents want you to be, it's what people expect of you. And so it's this feeling of, I'm not really as good because you are kind of faking it. And that will always leave you in this cycle of never really stepping into who God made you to be. But then there's this other kind of imposter syndrome that I call expansion syndrome, which is where you start to authentically come into alignment with who you really are. So for me, it was, I'm not good at anything. The only thing I'm actually good at is talking, which I thought wasn't good enough. But that's when God's like, okay, now that we're being real, now that we're being authentic, now that you're not trying to be someone that you're not, that is who I've called you to be. And now I'm going to open doors. And those doors actually are bigger than you, but it's who God has made you to be. And you experience imposter syndrome because you're stepping prophetically into who you were always meant to be. Who is this a picture of in the Bible? David. He felt like a shepherd, but God actually had anointed him to be king. And doors and opportunities opened for him that were who he was, but they were way outside of of his expertise, of his skills, of his abilities. And so that's how God is often calling imposters to step into who they really are. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one of my biggest perspectives of imposter syndrome is, well, I'll say this. So I was speaking at an event back in January, and I had a woman ask me toward the end of the event, she was like, how did I get over my feelings of being an imposter early on in my business? And I paused for a minute because I had really never identified myself as having the imposter, like having that imposter syndrome. Maybe I did. I mean, I've been in business for 20 years. So I'm sure I did at some point, but like it didn't really resonate with me that like I had overcome that. So I kind of sat with it for like, a few seconds, but I was like, I think especially in my author business and all the pieces I have with that, I know for me, like to the core, that that God called me to this. I don't need to do this. This is well beyond what I'm comfortable doing. And I think I don't want to say always, but I kind of want to say always that as far as I can remember, I'll just say that. When I show up knowing I'm not trying to impress anybody, I'm not trying to prove anything to anybody. I'm literally just being like, God, I will be obedient. You just show me the next steps. Like I'll show up, you do the heavy lifting. And I think that's the healthy part of that. And I see you nodding. Yes. So like, how do we help people maybe get to that point? Or It is like you mentioned striving earlier. It's like almost the difference between striving and stewarding, which might be too much black and white, but hey friend, I wanted to take a quick pause to ask if you've taken the quiz yet to find out what type of dreamer are you. It's super important to discover what's working for you, but also some things that may be keeping you from really pursuing your greatest purpose. It takes just 2 minutes to find out if you're the skimboarder, the sunbather, the sandcastle builder, or the surfer babe. So jump over to dreamerquiz.com and be sure to share your results and tag me in it. Now back to the show.
No, it ends up becoming a conversation about authenticity because the antidote to imposter syndrome is authenticity. So what does that mean? It means, okay, like, for example, sometimes people are like, I don't know what to share on social media. I'm nervous. I have imposter syndrome. And I'm like, well, what's authentic for you right now? And that's what you share. So it might be, hey guys, I feel really cringy coming on social media and getting in front of the camera. And I'm nervous that, I'm not going to be articulate or I'm not going to say it right, but I'm feeling like I'm supposed to show up here and God's calling me to do it. So I'm just going to be obedient, right?
Right.
It's doing a call out. It's being real. It's being authentic. The reason why I really believe God started opening the doors for me was because, I had been looking for all these jobs, like, business degree and admin, and I'm not any of that stuff. It would have kept me in this cycle of trying to be someone that I'm not. And when I was like, the only thing I'm good at is talking. Like, that's it. That's all I've got. And that's when I felt like he was like, perfect. Like, that's actually what I made you for. And now I literally help people speak for a living. And so I just think there's a conversation around, who are you? What do you love? What do you hate? What are you passionate about? What's authentic for you? What's real for you right now? And if you can show up as that, the imposter syndrome isn't really a conversation anymore.
Well, why do you feel like so many people struggle with it? Like, why is that? I think you said that before, like it's the number one thing or the most common thing that everybody's dealing with. Like, why?
Because we think it's not enough. Like, it's 100% like, again, even when I've had conversations with people with all the degrees, and it still comes back to this thing of like, well, maybe if it were a bit more. It's like, no, you like, use what you have. What you have is just enough. And so if we could like lean into the enoughness of ourselves, even like our limitedness, because again, I thought talking, like, that's not good enough. Like, I've got to have something extra. But when you lean into what you are and what you're not, like you said, you're like, I don't have anything else to prove or to give. And so this is fully authentically me. But we just constantly think it's not enough.
Yeah. It's so interesting. So I just recently had Erica Lagenza Gwynn on my podcast. And it's so interesting because she was talking about one of her books that she just recently launched. And one of the lies is that we are enough. And so I'm thinking about that conversation with her, and now thinking, having this conversation with you. And I love where this is going, because it's like little fire sparks are going off in my brain, because we are not enough, the whole picture. But like you just said, our limits are, what did you call it? Our limitness? Is that what you called it?
Yeah, being limited, our limits.
Yeah. I feel like you said limitness, which I don't think is a word, but I think it should be a word because it was like, it's like polar to like enoughness, which also is not a word. But like, I specifically remember Erica saying like, well, let's just agree that we are not enough in our own strength. But like you just said, we have enough. It's like the little mustard seed, right?
Yes.
It's like this little tension of like, we aren't enough all the way, but we have enough to honor God with, and he fills in the rest. I don't know. Say it better than that.
No. It's all the things. It's actually 100% we are not enough without Christ, because the whole goal, so if we're looking at it from like a relationship perspective, the whole goal is for us to see our not enoughness so that we can depend on Christ.
Yeah.
Right. But in our not enoughness, it's enough for God to use.
Yes.
Right.
It's so good.
But like, right. So it's like, we know, it's like, no, okay, full stop. Like, I don't have enough in like the things that God's called you to do. It's like, well, I don't have the resources. Well, I don't have the degree. Well, I don't have you name it. But that's the point. And it's like, so God's going to actually just use what you got. And there's this beautiful, I love this scripture. It's in Acts 4. I want to say Acts 4:13, but I could be wrong. But it's where, Jesus called the disciples, and it's to God's glory, because the people looked at James and Peter and they were like, look at their boldness. But wait a second, look at how they're speaking. But they're unschooled, untrained, unqualified men. But wait a second, they've been with Jesus. And so the qualifier is people will look at you and be like, hey, hang on a second. You don't have a degree, or you're not schooled, or you're not trained. And obviously I'm not talking about doctors, right? I feel like there needs to be context on it. But like in certain things, God will call you to that from a worldly perspective, it doesn't look like you're the person. But because Jesus has anointed you to do it, you're the person. And that's what we're looking at in the life of David. That's what we're looking at in the life of Moses. That's what we're looking at with Esther. It's like they shouldn't have been the one, but they were the one because God said that they were the one. So they got to step into it.
Yes, and this is going to go right into my next question too. Moses and Esther and David and us. I mean,
Right.
also, yes, God anointed them, but they showed up with the little that they did
Yeah.
have. And so I feel like, and maybe this is just my rebellious, I always look for like, well, why, maybe not. So I feel like when I've seen people maybe call out that they struggle with imposter syndrome or whatever, and again, this is totally going to step on toes, but what I'd love for you to just share so I'm not stepping on toes. When people maybe use it as an excuse to be like, well, I'm just not going to do anything because I can't do it if I feel like an imposter.
Right.
And then they're like they're disqualifying themselves, but they're also almost saying that they don't think God can also fill in the gaps and qualify them.
Right.
Do you
It
see that?
actually, oh yeah, it's a pride thing. It really is kind of a pride thing because God's ultimate goal is dependence. Like, I heard someone say this once. He said, maturity in the world is independence, right? That you can like dress yourself, feed yourself, right? That's what we're doing as moms. We're raising independent kids. But in the kingdom, it's actually maturity is dependence on Christ. It's truly knowing I don't have it. I don't have what it takes in my own strength. I'm a mess. And unless God shows up, unless God gives me my daily bread, unless God does it, it's not gonna go well. And and that's a really uncomfortable place. I hate that place. I'm in that place right now, but I'm depending on God.
Right.
And I think that's what he died for is that relationship with us. So it ends up being like an issue of surrendering that to the Lord and doing it
Mhm.
anyway.
Yeah, that's so good. I love that. I just love all that we just excavated.
Yeah.
That was really good for my heart. And yeah, just that willingness to show up imperfect and just with that open heart of like, okay, God, this is for you. Show me what's next.
Yeah.
Like you just said, you don't like this position, and when are we not in that position? I mean, if we're not creating, I feel like
I
that's not a good
know.
place to be. So I feel like whenever we are creating, it's almost, I mean, it's that tension. It's not necessarily comfortable, but the more you do it, I feel like for me anyway, I start to like crave it where I'm like, gosh, if I can figure this all out, I'm bored already.
Mhm.
Where I'm like, I have no idea what I'm doing. It's a little risky. I might look like a complete fool, but I've kind of started to just kind of love that. And
Yeah.
because God is just so faithful and I've just seen too much, I've seen just him be like, I've done it before, just wait.
Yes. Yeah, and I guess one of the things about it that I love so much is I mean I remember when God was speaking to me about the video content and things like that, and like a conversation that we were having was I just kept being like, there's just so much noise on the internet and so many
Mm.
people out there that are doing this. Like, what does my voice even matter? Was what I kept saying. And I remember one day I was making dinner and I was reaching into the fridge and me and God were having the same conversation. And I said, what does my voice even matter? And I felt God totally speak so like clear as a bell. And he just said, because I like your voice. And it
Mm.
really shifted it for me because I think we do look at what everyone else is doing and we think, well, I'm not enough. But when he said that to me, I really felt like he was like, "But I like your voice. I like the way that you say it. I like your tonality and your jokes and the way that you say it." And it really flipped it for me where I realized like just God likes me. Like if it's not for anybody else, he likes my podcast. Like he
Yeah.
likes my stupid videos. He likes my little business ideas and like all this stuff I'm coming to the table with. And I thought of my kids, like their little thoughts and their little ideas. And I delight in seeing them do their thing so much
Mm.
that if they just like sat on the couch and every day they're like, Mom, what should I do? Mom, what should I do? I'd be like, go do something. But I love when they run up to me and they're like, "Look, I painted this picture and
Right.
I've got this idea." And it's wonderful. It's just so wonderful. And that is what it's like for us and the Lord. That's why he had us. That's what he wants. He loves seeing us come alive because he just wanted to have children. That's it. And we are that.
I love that. And what a great comparison to like how much we delight in our kids and their little voices. I mean, when I watch videos of like before my boys had their deep voices, and I'm like, I love your voice. I mean, I love it now too, but yes, what a great comparison. And I love that. If he's our
Right.
only audience, then that is certainly good enough. I
Yeah,
love that.
100%.
Yeah, that's so good. Well, and kind of in line with that, as we are sharing our authentic selves and really embracing, our gifts, our talents, our uniqueness, talk about storytelling. I know that's one of your great
Mm.
skills and strengths and things that you help your clients do and building their personal brand stories and all of that. So
Mhm.
maybe talk to us about why is storytelling so important, especially in today's world with AI? And I don't even know if we
Yeah.
want to go there, but um, yeah, why is storytelling so important? And how do you help people kind of identify what their unique story is?
Yeah. So gosh, there's like this would be like a full day training, but
Yes,
I'm gonna say,
the
um,
Cliff Notes version.
yeah. One of the things is, there's like knowing your story and then there's leveraging storytelling to be a better communicator. So there's two different like paths. When we're talking about like knowing your story, the reason why that is so important, especially usually for founders or people that are communicating is your story builds authenticity, it builds relatability, it builds trust, it sells. People will forget your name, but they will remember your story.
Mm.
And the other thing that I think it solves for founders and entrepreneurs, it very much solves the niche question. Like people are like, what's my niche? And how should I be positioned? And what's the clarity in my brand? Time and time and time again, it comes back to your story. And people struggle to see their own story because they are like, I have so many stories and I don't know which one. So it's very helpful to
Mm.
sit down with someone to share and get it out there to clarify it. But I mean, I could literally sit here and tell you story after story after story of how people that have been confused in their brand or their message, after we identify their story, it's clear and it brings momentum to their brand.
So, what comes first? Learning their story that to then figure out their brand, or do they have like an idea of what they want to do and they figure out which part of their story they
Hmm,
should use?
that's a good question. I usually find that there's a couple of points to that. Sometimes they kind of inform each other. So
Mm.
like I'll share a story. There was this woman, and I was at an event, and we were talking about social media. She's like, yeah, yeah, I've been in the business for a really long time, as far as like her business. And she's like, I used to love sharing online, and she's like, now I can't, just don't even want to be on there, and blah 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 blah. And all these people are like giving her tips on like what she can do to help her. And I just looked at her and I was like, I think it's not this like trying to find a hack for you. Your story has changed. Your story's changed. And so what you used to be talking about just doesn't light you up anymore. And she was like, I want to talk to you.
Yeah.
She's like, you're absolutely right. My story's changed. I've evolved. And so what used to light me up and be fun and energizing and like, I got to get this message out there, it's different now. And so that happens as well, where you've evolved. And so your story has changed and that's informed your business. And also your business is informing the story to tell.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's like, does the chicken hatch or the egg? It's kinda one of those things, but they definitely inform each other.
Yeah. So, yeah, I can totally relate with that personally as well. That's really
Mhm.
good. Um so I mean, can you share some ways that you help people like uncover some of their, uniqueness and what their pieces of
Yeah.
their story are that not that matter because I think all parts of our stories matter, but in terms of building a brand.
Yeah. I will do it through storytelling.
Yes.
There was a client that I had, and he had this brand about being unstoppable, and he's just like, I got this brand, and he had merch, he had hats, he had the colors and the fonts and all the things. And so I said, well, tell me about being unstoppable. And he's like, well, just like going after it and like not letting life take you down and just like like passion and did it. I'm like, okay, but why is that important to you? And he just kept going. And like, it was almost like I had to wrestle him down to be real.
Yeah.
And I said, just tell, like, why? And eventually he kind of said, well, and I should say just for the podcast, like trigger warning, because I feel like we need to do that in 2026. Trigger warning. He said, well, I've never told anyone this, but there was a time where I almost took my life. And I said, really? And I mean, you would have never guessed. And he has this like big following and he's kind of prominent in his community. And I asked him, I said, have you ever told anybody that? He said, no. But and I said, really? So tell me more. So he just starts listing off all these statistics around men's mental health, right? Like not even trying.
Right.
It just starts coming out of him. And I said, do you know what? You don't have a brand about finding your purpose or passion, like maybe, but I was like, you have a brand about men's mental health. You are on mission to help people stop what's killing them on the inside. Like if we don't identify the fears, if we don't, like they will be stopped. You were almost stopped. And your passion to help people being unstoppable comes by helping them identify those things and get into community. And you should have just seen him light up. He's like, you are absolutely right. That's it. And so we start crafting a story around it. And I say, when you go to your next networking event, I want you to just tell your story. Just share that part. He goes to a networking event, ends up talking to this woman. And it turns out she hears his story and says, I cannot believe that we don't have anyone talking about men's mental health. I work at the Olympics. I would love to have a conversation with you about seeing you speak at the Olympics. And it's like, whoa.
Wow.
Because he leaned into his authentic self, which was scary, right? He thought he's going to lose credibility by being real. But because he leaned into his authentic story, he told his story, and it was around his uniqueness and what he was really meant to be talking about, doors opened up. And so that's what we're talking about. Going back to the expansion syndrome is when you are real and you're authentic and you know your story and you're sharing it. I really feel like God kisses it and it's like, all right, let's do this.
Yes. Yeah. And I mean, speaking of God kissing it, how do you hear God's voice in that? I mean, obviously you are as the coach, I haven't sat down with you for a coaching session, but I can already tell you have a very deep level of discernment. I mean, that's obviously a spiritual gift of yours. But how do you, maybe as a coach, but also how do you help other people, hear God's voice and leading in that? I mean, that's probably a whole nother session.
I love these questions. Okay. So I love how you said you're okay with being a fool for Christ, because when I, really went all in for Jesus at 19, I saw that people could hear, and I was like, you can hear God's voice. What does it sound like? I was just amazed. And like, I thought it sounds like the movies, like big storming voice. So I kind of got a little obsessive about figuring out, how do I hear God's voice? And I would do these silly things where, I'd be like, okay, God, what is Jennifer's favorite color? Like, my friend, just asking God questions. And then I'd, whatever was the first thing that came to my mind. I know these are silly things, but this is what I did.
I love it.
And then I'd go over to him and be like, hey, so Jennifer, like my friend or whoever it is that, I'm asking about, is your favorite color, emerald green? Just like real specific. And she'd be like, no, why? Oh, no worries. No reason. Right. But like, I started just really like, not just like, I started to get really serious about it. And like, if I would be at a restaurant, Lord, what's this person's name? What's this waiter's name? So before they'd even come to the table, I'd be like, is your name Richard? Right? No. Why do you ask? Oh, no reason. Just checking. But I do that kind of stuff all the time, that I started to get really sharp. And eventually it would be Richard. And they'd be like, why do you ask? And I'd say, well, it sounds weird, but I was praying and I was asking God what your name was. And he told me. And the Bible says to eagerly desire spiritual gifts. And it's not for the special people. It's just for the people that eagerly desire to lean into God's voice for the encouragement of others. It was never about like, I want to be this super Christian. It's like, man, I've seen how people have shared things with me that God has told them that have actually completely changed the trajectory of my life. And so out of that place of gratitude, I really take it so seriously that like I could be that for someone else. And so I'm just a little obsessive about it.
Yeah. That's
like,
awesome.
It's kind of a passion. Yeah.
Yeah. And I have these moments where I call it like, I can't unhear it, where it's like, I'll be praying for something very specific. My husband and I have this, I don't want to say rule, but this prayer that we prayed long before, like right after we got married. We were trying to figure out if we should move to Georgia, and we both got saved in college. So we were baby Christians, and we're probably doing something similar to you, where we were like, we need to know yes or no. Like we're looking for an audible move to Georgia, stay in Florida, and we both, so our prayer was that he would make our answer as clear as the day he turned water into wine. Like, no question. It's no longer water. It's now wine. Like, that's how, it doesn't need to be like a watered down version of an answer. Like, we know you can do this, God, and this is what we're expecting and asking. And so we've been married for 22 years now. And every time, big prayers, little prayers, definitely like the big life impactful ones, God, should we do this? Yes or no? Should we stay? Yes or no? And just being open to, whatever that clear answer is. And he never lets us down, of course. And even literally in this past week, as you were speaking, it just made me think we were praying for a very specific direction of what we should do in this, potential area of our life, which I'll share more about. It's not terribly secretive, but it's not terribly personal. But I remember God saying, this particular thing that we thought we wanted, he said, that's very close to what I have planned for you. But I'm not the God of close. I am the God of exceeding your expectations. And I literally cannot unhear that. And it wasn't the answer I wanted. Like, I wanted the answer to be yes. Like, I was looking for like all the positive, like, yes, do this. And it was not. It was, this is close, but I'm not the God of close. And I was like, I literally, so now I call it my I can't unhear it, moment, where I'm like, I will for sure know that I'm rebelling if I do opposite of what he just said, like, it's so clear. And
I love that prayer.
Yes. Thank you. Well, feel free to use it because it was his example, right?
Yeah.
So,
and I love his response. That's such a God response. It's always like, he always confounds us. It's like, wait a second. But I love that he's not a God of close, that he's a God that exceeds expectations. That's so good. I love that.
Yeah. Yeah. And you always know it's him because it lines up with his word, right? So I'm like, yes, that is true. Above anything we could ask or imagine, So I'm like, yep, that was him. That was the answer. So we're going to pause, guys, and then getting to share all that with the kids. And they're like, oh, I want God to talk to me like that, And I'm like, he is, So, which really makes me think of, and you mentioned just the enthusiasm for seeking God so that you can encourage others with what you know. And, just my note about sharing with our kids and those around us, like I said, this little personal story, it will be shared soon, but in all the ways, like, why does storytelling, why does getting over being, feeling like an imposter, all the things you help people through, maybe a sort of like a wrap-up question, why does it matter so much, like for today, for tomorrow, for us, for others? I mean, even in light of eternity, I mean, we could go real big here, but like.
Yeah, it's such a good question. And to be honest, I've even been asking myself that question because I'm like, you think like, what's the legacy that you're leaving? And like, this is what I'm talking about. But in regards to the storytelling, I just think God wants people to be excellent kingdom communicators, and Jesus used stories. he used stories to communicate the kingdom, to communicate ideas. And, I so deeply admire people that are called to a place of prayer. I mean, I kind of feel like it feels like the more humble place, but that's never been what God has called me to. I mean, obviously he's called me to pray, but like anytime I'm like, should I pray about that or should I say something? I feel like he's always like, say something,
Hmm.
you know?
That's
And
amazing.
but it's scary and but I feel a passion to help people communicate and to say it better, and people question and doubt themselves. So many Christians feel like they can't communicate or they don't say it right. And I just want to help them learn how to take confidence in trusting the Holy Spirit and the voice that he's given them. So I think for me, if I'm like a little cog in the wheel of the body of Christ, or a body part on the pinky or the fingernail, that's my little part. And in regards to imposter syndrome, I think that comes to the root
Hmm.
of this feeling of, but I'm a fraud. And God's over here like, you are. But with me, I am going to turn that and use it for my purposes so that we both know it wasn't you,
Yeah.
right? We both know it really wasn't you. It was me. And so I think that passion that believers can rest in their not enoughness,
Hmm.
right? But know that we are because of Christ.
Yeah.
And he calls us. So I think those two things matter to me because they're my story.
Yeah.
And we're oftentimes called to help the people that we once were.
Yeah. Oh, that's so good. And I think the more people see us walking out, what God's called us to in his strength. And like you said, when people look at you and you're like, I went to high school with her. She was
Yeah.
just like me. Like she failed calculus, like
Yeah.
she didn't, whatever. Who does she think she is? Well, it's like, oh, I don't. I just know who God is. And I know what
Right.
he's capable of. And like, what testimony is that? Like, there's just nothing better, to be like,
I
you're right.
know.
It's still me, but God
I
can use
know.
me just like he can now use you. And then they're like, well, now I'm out of excuses because I'm
I
just like
know.
you.
It
So
was Yeah, it was all the worst of the worst in the Bible that he said, "Go back and tell him." And it's like, the woman with the issue of blood, the woman that had 5 husbands, and everyone's like, "That chick?" And it's like, "But I've been touched by Jesus, and it's
right.
for the glory of God." So yes, absolutely, you nailed it. That is my heart.
I love that. It's so good. And I just, yeah, I love how you show up, obviously your authentic self. And I mean, like I said, I've been following you, I think since, I don't know, maybe we both got into like the social media author space at some point. The
Yeah.
algorithm thought we should be friends, however that thin thread worked itself out. But you've always shown up that way. And what you're
Thank
sharing now is that your story has probably changed too,
Yeah.
And so I just love how everything you share, you're like, it's genuine because I've lived it and I'm literally showing up every day, you know, walking out exactly what I'm speaking. So
Thank
it's
you.
amazing. Yes.
Thank you so much. That's so encouraging.
Yeah. Well, you've encouraged all of us. So this has been an incredible conversation. I feel like we should go get
Mhm.
coffee and just continue.
Yes.
But before I go, so tell everybody where they can find you, follow you, find all of your
Mhm.
resources, and I'll have links in the
Yeah.
show notes, of course, too.
Great. Yes. So, Melissa Lee Hughes, and that's LEA. So Instagram, Melissa Lee Hughes. I'm on LinkedIn, kind of. I'm on TikTok, and that's all around motherhood and stuff like that. My website, Melissa Lee Hughes. I have a podcast called She Can Share. And I'm coming out with a book around imposter syndrome at the back end of this year. And
Yay.
the editor came back to me and she's like, make some of these adjustments. And I'm like, oh, what a labor of love, but it will be done. So I'm
Amazing.
excited about that too. Yeah.
Awesome. We'll have to keep our eye out for that, too. But
Thank
yes, all
you.
these will be linked so everybody can follow you, find you, continue along your journey and follow get all your resources and all of that. So yes,
Thank you so much.
thank you for being here, Melissa. And for everybody listening, thank you so much for joining us, of course. And as always, keep your big ideas coming, and we will see you on the next episode. Hey friends, thanks so much for tuning in today. Before you go, it would mean the world to me and my family if you would share this episode with at least one person who you think might benefit from this message. And of course, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss future episodes. You can also follow me at Ashlee Ilg on Instagram to keep up with our adventures and for continued encouragement as you pursue your big ideas. Thanks again for joining us. Until next time.